In this episode, I'm going to tell you about the Breakfast of Champions. Hey, what's going on? What's going on? My name is Michael Sahno, and welcome to the Sea and Land Fitness Podcast, the only podcast on professional tactical fitness. So, this podcast is brought to you by 511 Well, first of all, it's brought to you by Sea and Land Fitness. Head on over to www.sandlfit.com. That's www.sandlfit.com, and check out our brand new programs that we just put up. But I'll get into that later. We're also brought to you by 511 Tactical, the number one manufacturer of some of the best tactical and tactical fitness gear on the planet. We're also brought to you by Thorne Supplements, some of the greatest supplements on the planet. I use them. And what's so great about them? Well, what's on the outside of the bottle is actually what's on the inside of the bottle. So you don't have to worry about not getting what's advertised. And our third sponsor is RDX Sports, makers of some of the finest fighting sports equipment on the planet. We actually use their focus pad mitts, which you can see behind me if you're watching on YouTube. And we've got some discounts for you from some of our sponsors, and you can check them out at the end. So Breakfast of Champions. This is huge. This was really big to me. And it falls in line with our last episode. So our last episode, I talked to you about, our family trip to Charleston, South Carolina. I wanted to take my family to where I was first stationed in the Navy. Excuse me, a little bit of a something in my throat. Actually, I'm going to have a sip of coffee. Peter Madeira, this is for you. Yeah, I can hear it. I'm kind of scratchy. What's going on there? So, this falls in line with the going away on vacation and losing weight. And how did I wind up losing weight on vacation? I wound up losing weight by just walking my ass off. I think together every day we walked about 4 miles. But this is important. It wasn't just that movement through space. That's what I was talking about. And that was the main focus of our last episode, is getting up and moving through space. So what do I do for that? I put on a rucksack, the one behind me, the 511, with my Camelback inside of it, and I go up and down a hill. It's about a 2-mile hump. Do it twice a week, more if I'm in the mood, but at least twice a week. So that's the first part of moving through space. And it's important that I bring all this up. There's a reason why I'm getting into this. So the second thing that I do, I like to move through space. I am an avid swimmer. I swim. If I can do the breaststroke, if you say, drop me in the water and say, get to this point on a map, on a chart, I will get there by doing the breaststroke. It's an excellent swimming exercise because it conserves a lot of energy, and you can continue to do it. It's a really great aerobic exercise. So it's a really good tool for moving your body through space. I do a half mile twice a week. All right. So why am I bringing both of those things up? And what do they have to do? Well, moving through space. What do they have to do with losing weight in Charleston when I was walking 4 miles approximately a day. Well, fuel is the big thing, that if you don't have fuel, your body will try to conserve it. So the body's this amazing engine. It can figure out, intuitively, that, hey, this bozo is doing a lot of stuff, and we know that it costs this many calories in order to do all that stuff, and this jackass is not eating that many calories throughout the day. And so you not only have to take into account that extra movement, but you also have to take into account your everyday movement. Even being sedentary, sitting in a chair burns calories because your heart pumps, your lungs expand, and contract, and there's all this stuff that occurs. Your brain operates and requires calories. It actually carries a high caloric load. So the body's always interested in maintenance, maintaining its core systems. So it's going to say, hey, this guy eats X every day. I'm throwing numbers out there. This guy eats 25, 300, 3,000 calories every day. All right. And now he's exercising, but he's not changing what he's eating. So we're going to run out. You're not going to run out. You're absolutely not going to run out, because you have fat stores. You have muscle and liver glycogen stores, which are sugar. Your body's not going to run out, but your body is always convinced it's going to run out. So one of the things you need to do is reassure your body that it's going to be okay and that you have enough calories. And one of the best ways to do that is by having a solid breakfast, a good breakfast. What was once called a hearty breakfast. And the reason a hearty breakfast is important is because I'm going to have another sip of coffee real quick. Hold on. The reason a hearty breakfast, I believe, this is 50% science, 50% my experience. So the reason a hearty breakfast, and I love that term, that's such a great term, a hearty breakfast, is your body likes to eat groups of things together. Okay. So your the way the digestive system works, and I am simplifying, ham-fisting this down to the lowest common denominator, because I know there's some, nutrition nerd out there like me, don't worry, but there's some nutrition nerd out there who's going, this is too simple. You're not. No, I'm giving guidelines. These guidelines are so that we can have a general understanding, a general conversation. Sorry, I have an itch on my ear, or like behind my little headphone insert. So in a nutshell, the body, we have these things called macronutrients. We have, carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. We also have all these other vitamins and minerals. The body loves, just absolutely loves. We have evolutionarily developed over time to love getting all of that in a mix. So it's actually interesting if you think about it. Think about human behavior. What established itself over 275,000 years of human evolution? What established itself as the norm for eating? Was having a bag of chips a norm? No. Was having a I'm trying to think. Just a bowl of rice a norm? No. there were instances where, you know, economy and poverty dictated that, yeah, you were going to have it. But think about what, even in those poor times, they had. They would make these broths, okay? So they would get this precious piece of chicken or beef or mutton or whatever, and they would boil it. And for some reason, the protein was transferred out of, well, protein molecules were transferred the out of the beef, mutton, chicken, whatever, and into that broth. And maybe there'd be little slivers of it. And so it was rice or something, you know, with broth. So we have this it's not even cultural. It's this humanistic need to have a mix of macronutrients in one meal. You look at all the meals that you've had, there's been staples. And I'm going somewhere with this because of what's happened. So one of the things, so what we've established generally is that the body likes to get a mix of things. It loves to absorb the nutrients and go through the process of breaking things apart and pulling out, this is what I need, this is what I need, the digestive tract. You know, so we've established, let's say we've established that. So now let's look at the meals throughout history, and, you know, meat and potatoes, or meat and rice, or fish and rice, or all of these different things. Okay. I'm going to have another sip of coffee. Hold on. I might be going into the weeds here. So another sip. So on that note of a mix of things, I think a hearty breakfast should be defined as a breakfast that has a mix of things. You'll see, like, I love to watch the if you ever get a chance, watch the movies on, oh, it's fascinating. The movies on the CrossFit games, not the sport itself, but the actual high-end, the CrossFit games. And there's a couple of people in them who they talk about what they have for breakfast. And they'll have, you know, oatmeal with honey and peanut butter. And that's an okay breakfast, but I wouldn't say that's a hearty breakfast. And then look at another competitor, and they're having sandwiches. Okay. Which sandwiches are, their sandwiches would be like tuna fish, or they would be like a chicken salad that they made, or some turkey, you know, and lettuce and all this other stuff. And that falls more into hearty because that sandwich has all kinds of, you know, it has carbohydrates, it has proteins, it has some fats in it because there's probably some mayo in there, and all that stuff, that mess, that mix of things is important for letting your body know that it's okay. You're not starving. You can regulate your metabolic process, meaning the usage of the correct fuels to move you through space. Some of that might be fats, you know. You're not going to, my point is, you're not going, if weight loss is your journey, you're not going to lose weight if your body thinks it is starving. Okay. And if you're not feeding yourself correctly, your body's going to most likely think that it is starving. And having a bunch of carbohydrates, like a cereal, a bunch of fats, you know, or just protein. Yes, protein's satiating, but is it giving you everything that you need? There's that was an itch. You like that? There is data that suggests that carbohydrates and proteins should be eaten together. There's other data that says it doesn't. But I'm going to tell you my experiential result. Experiential means my experience. My experience has been that it works. It works a lot better than just eating a group. So, an example, let's say I go for that long walk, or I go for a swim and I come home and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have this granola cereal that I get from Sam's, honey and almonds, love it. Um, and I know someone's going to say, oh, that thing's full of sugar. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that is why I eat it. And the reason I eat it is because after such a long aerobic workout, my glycogen stores in my liver, the sugar stores, stored sugar in my body is low. The muscle glycogen, the direct sugar that my muscles will use for fuel is low. You do a half-mile swimming, breaststroke, you're gonna burn through some of your sugar stores. So that's what happens. But I'll tell you, I would never choose to just have that cereal for my breakfast to start everything out. And now I'm going to tell you, excuse me, I'm going to have a sip of coffee. I'm yammering so I can hear my voice going. So, what do I have for breakfast? What do I eat for breakfast that was so magical that it transformed everything? Well, it's actually kind of dumb. It's kind of stupid, silly. Um, and that's going to be why it's so silly is what I'm going to talk about after. So when we were in Charleston, we are doing all this walking and I'm losing weight. One of the things that I did every morning was I went downstairs and they had a buffet. It was at the Marriott. Awesome. They had a buffet every morning. They called it a continental breakfast, but they actually had some hot food too. And the hot food that they had was scrambled eggs and sausage. And I would take about a handful of scrambled eggs, 2 handfuls of scrambled eggs, put it on the plate. I'd take 6 pieces of sausage and I would toast 2 slices of bread and put butter on them. And I ate it every morning. Had to. Brought my wife up, interestingly, 2 muffins. They had a blueberry and a cinnamon muffin. And she never had the amount of energy that I had. She had energy, but it would dissipate quickly. But she never had the amount of energy that I had to go, 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 go. And she walks a lot. She walks a ton. She goes into the city, goes back and forth to work all the time. So she's got that aerobic capacity to go and do what we did on vacation. And my son ate the same thing. And ironically, my son and I never, woke up early, got the food, went to bed around 11 o'clock, woke up early again the next morning, got the food, went and did everything all day. And we were able to get stuff done. We never felt starving. We never felt, oh my God, this is too much. And it was just, it had a tremendous effect. So I thought about it and I went and I got, we have a great place up where I live in the Hudson Valley. We have a place called Adams. And Adams carries this brand called Jones. And I like chicken sausage. Oh, my nose itches. Chicken sausage and turkey sausage. And I dump all the boxes out, or it comes in a bag sometimes, and I'll throw it in a Ziploc bag and put it in the freezer. And in the morning, I turn the oven on, 400, throw in 6 links, and cook it for 13 minutes. By the time they're done, the frying pan's heated. Once they're done, I throw the toast in, scramble the eggs, and boom. And I will tell you, every single time I eat that breakfast, I have no trouble in the day getting out and doing what I need to do. I have no trouble in the day doing my workouts, aside from motivation, which is always going to be a problem. And I lose weight. I'm losing weight, and I don't want to lose a ton of weight, but I do want to lose some weight. Especially since I took the winter off as an off season. I definitely want to drop a couple pounds out of my belly. So, but it is so phenomenal. And what's so interesting about it, I'm going to have another sip of coffee. I am just pounding coffee in this episode. So, one of the things that's so interesting about this is that I've come up with this term for the way I've been eating lately, and it is old guy eating. I'm eating like an old guy. And if you look at pictures, and I've looked at a lot of this data, the DOD, the Department of Defense, Department of the Army, they have some really good studies, historical studies on diet and the American diet over time, and the caloric intake that people, had back in the teens, the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, 50s, 60s, all the way up to now. And if you look at the data, obesity wasn't that big a deal. It wasn't a big problem, which of course it is now. So I've I want to say I had this epiphany, but I feel like an a-hole for having this epiphany, because it's like, dummy, of course. You know what I mean? Like one of those kind of things. But the way our forefathers and foremothers ate, and prepared food and set up food, um, is a lot healthier for us. And regulated eating, make sure you eat your breakfast. My grandfather used to come home from Stanley Tools and eat lunch. My grandmother would make him lunch. So he would have a prepared meal. So, am I saying you need to have a Bonnie at home, a Betty at home making you, or if you're a female, a Bob or Jeff at home making you dinner? No, I'm not saying you have to have that. What I'm saying is that maybe rather than pop over to McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's, have leftovers for lunch. Have prepared leftovers from a meal that you prepared or someone in your family prepared, and eat that. I think, remember I said that mix of macronutrients all at once, your body really loves it. I mean, I know that when I make lasagna, which is heaven, um, I eat that for lunch probably for almost a week after. So let's get back to those simple um ingredients in our meals. Let's take time and actually prepare those meals. And if it means we have to wake up a little earlier to make that breakfast before we go out, go to bed half an hour earlier. You know, everything's on Netflix, so you're not missing a show. Everything's on Amazon. You're not gonna, miss the 10 o'clock news. The 10 o'clock news is probably on YouTube anyways. So yeah, let's maybe do that. let's maybe make a little commitment to ourselves to make food for ourselves. One, let's make sure it has the minimal amount of ingredients. If it's chicken, let's use real chicken. Let's use the slow cooker and cook up some chicken and throw it in the fridge and eat it all week. There's nothing wrong with pasta. Everyone's angry about, oh, you got to watch your carbs. If you want some pasta, but measure that pasta out, or make it in a serving. Just boil it and then throw the chicken in there with a little bit of red sauce or something. Rather than buy Alfredo, make it. It's actually simple. We did it in the slow cooker where we took chicken. Oh my gosh. We took chicken, cream, like heavy cream, and a little bit of milk, and put a little bit of butter in there and salt and pepper, and boom, we made Alfredo. That's Alfredo. I don't know if you know that. And I actually like it on rice. My wife thinks I'm insane, but I live for rice. There's a power breakfast if you have time, which it's Filipino breakfast. And basically what it is it's rice. So you can make rice the night before, pour oil on it, split it in half, put one in one Rubbermaid and the other in the other Rubbermaid. And you got 2 servings right there. Take out that rice, put it in a bowl, microwave it for about a minute, and then make 2 eggs over easy. Drop those 2 eggs on the rice, then a can of tuna, and then some teriyaki sauce, some hoisin sauce, and a little bit of soy sauce, and mix that up. Oh, and sriracha mayo, you'll pass out. It is so good. It's out of control. But there's so many different hearty breakfasts that you can make that are just tremendous. And make that breakfast, tell your body not to be hungry and that it's going to get enough food, and do it. Eat in moderation. Don't stuff your face, but just make a serving or 2 servings and just cram them down your throat and get on with your day. All right, that's all I've got. I hope that meandering whatever outlined why you should eat breakfast. I'm more than happy if anyone has questions about this. I'm actually thinking about putting a recipe for it up on the website. Speaking of the website, this podcast is brought to you by Sea and Land Fitness, the home of professional tactical fitness. So head on over to www.sandlfit.com. That's www.sandlfit.com. Head on over there and check out all of the new stuff. So I just set up so if you didn't know, the Sandbag program is now up. It is free. Access to the video library, the exercise video library, is free. You can see all of the exercise videos. If you want to know how to do an exercise, I went and did them all. And my son filmed them all. He is a rock star. Way to go, Robert. I'm going to have a sip of coffee. Hold on. And so you can get and use that program for free. I want a healthy America. Please go out and do that program. It only takes a sandbag. There's other stuff that you can pick up, a sandbag and a what do you call it? An exercise strap. One of those little exercise bands. So that's all it takes. That's it. So get out there and do that. If you want to push it a little more, or you're thinking of joining the military, we have our Tier 3 program has just released. It is $10, access to it for your lifetime. $10, $9.99. You go on, click that, you pay. You can have it for free, or not free. You can have it for $10, but you can have it for life. And that is for people who want to join, boot camp for the Navy, for the Air Force, Army, non-combat, the Coast Guard, all that. We also have and just released our Tier 2 program, which is for the infantry, Marine Corps, and combat arms. That's people like your tank drivers, cavalry, all that stuff, engineers. So that is a great program. It takes the Tier 3 and kind of juices it up a little bit, really pushes you a little bit harder. But those are $10. You just pay once and you have access for a lifetime. And another thing that we're getting ready to roll out is the forums. We're going to have a community. I'm always talking about the Honey Badger community on the website. Well, we're going to actually have a Honey Badger community where you can set up a profile, and we are going to be I'm dating myself, the MySpace, the Facebook of professional fitness. This forum, you're gonna, at every level, you'll have access to some place in the forum. But if you're in Tier 3, you'll have access to the Tier 3 forum with other people who are in Tier 3. If you're in Tier 2 and have paid the $10, you will have access to the Tier 2 forum. And we've got more stuff. I'm designing really funky, awesome t-shirts. The first one I think I'm going to release in the next couple of months. I got focus pad mitts from RDX. They're awesome. They're black. And they're just, we've got so much going on. So go over, check out the website, find a program that works for you, and pick up some merchandise. This podcast is also brought to you by, and I want to thank 511 Tactical. I want to thank Thorne Supplements, and I also want to thank RDX Sports. You guys are amazing. I use all of it, everything. I use all of it to produce our videos. I use all of it to live my life. So check out those sponsors. If you go to my I have a little spot within the Thorne website where you can go and you can order stuff at 10% off my picks. But if you have something you want from Thorne, they have these electrolytes, all this stuff. You just reach out to me. Let me know what you want, and I will get it, and I will get you 10% off. And finally, we have 10% off for RDX Sports with the code that you will find down in the description. All right. That's all I got. Later, Honey Badgers. Out.